truffles in Tuscany, a food crawl in Venice, and waiting for hours to get a sandwich in Florence. This week, we're in Italy.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. Destination Eat Drink is for foodies who like to travel and travelers who love to eat. And this week, I thought I'd share some of my favorite places in Italy. But first, take a minute to rate and review the podcast on your podcast app like T. Shilly. They said, Brent does a great job putting the listener in the setting and sharing his experiences. I love hearing about places I somehow missed when I had been to some of these countries. Download the podcast, well worth the time. Thanks, T. Shilly. Everyone wants to visit Italy, so this week we're checking out some of the hot spots like Venice, Florence, and the Bay of Naples off the Amalfi Coast. But instead of the tried and true landmarks, we'll discover other places where you can get a much more authentic experience. And I'm starving, so let's manja.
Destination Eat Drink.
Tony Mazzaglia is the founder of Taste Florence. She takes visitors to enjoy the best food and drink Florence has to offer, and she tells me about what's new in Florence, both the good and the not so good.
What I decided to do is kind of just dig up a couple of things I'm really happy that are happening that are kind of the exact opposite of the things I'm not happy about.
Okay,
so, like we got a Starbucks or two.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to bag on Starbucks, but
I will.
incredulent because, well, I mean, I do too, but I didn't know, I don't know if you have, so I don't want you to get banned somewhere or something. So basically, a Starbucks open, like you can stand from the door of the Starbucks and look up and see the dome, Brunelleschi's dome. So like it's that close to the Duomo and it is hopping. People love it. For whatever reason,
it drives me
they like
crazy
to get those
when
milkshakes.
I go to Italy. I know that candy, that 16 ounces of candy. It drives me nuts when I go to Italy and I see those lines, and I'm like, people, next door is the most amazing coffee shop.
Exactly,
and you're going
for €1.10. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a good friend who's actually going to come up later, and I was visiting him out in Seattle or something, but he's half Italian. And this is years ago, and we're standing there impatiently. All we wanted was one espresso, which takes 25 seconds if made correctly. And we're standing behind all the people getting their concoctions. And he turns to me in Italian and he says, "Ci vorrebbe una fila per chi vuole un caffè e un'altra fila per chi vuole un cazzo di frappè." Now, I'm not going to translate the cuss word in there.
Okay, but translate the rest.
He said, yeah, exactly. He said there should be a line for people that just want an espresso and a line for people that want the stupid milkshakes. And
except it wasn't stupid. He didn't say stupid.
No, he didn't say stupid. He said something a little more
colorful.
Yeah, colorful. So back to that. So yeah, all those places are opening and popping up. What is that burger place called? Five Brothers. They opened up Five Guys. They opened a Five Guys in the train station, but at the same time, like practically next door to that, an Antico Vinaio opened at the train station. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Antico Vinaio, you probably are, but you probably don't remember the name or don't remember how to say the name. Antico Vinaio is a sandwich shop in Via dei Neri that has become very popular, so popular that they opened extra locations. So there's actually 4 locations in Via dei Neri, the original, and then the 3 that popped up next door to handle all of the business. Then they opened one in New York. They've opened one in Rome. They've opened one in Piazza San Marco near the Accademia where David is. And they've opened one in the train station. And I haven't even looked. Who knows how many there are now. They just make these really delightful schiacciate, the flat, oily bread of Florence, filled with just amazing things. So the sandwiches are great. I won't stand in line for 2 hours for a panino.
Oh, is that what it's like?
Oh yeah, at least it was the last few years. I mean, it's gotten so crowded that the other business owners in Via dei Neri get very upset about it because you've got these lines. It looks like someone's standing in line at Disney World or something, but they're standing in line for a sandwich. Mm. And then once they get their sandwich, they proceed to sit on the ground because this is like a to-go place. It's a very tiny place. So they sit on the ground. They leave wrappers everywhere. I mean, you go all over town and you see a wrapper for these sandwiches because people will grab one and then they'll go, it's not far from the river. They'll go sit maybe on the wall and look at the river while they're eating this panino that they spent 2 hours getting, So I'm not, I don't have anything against the shop. Before they became super famous and popular, they used to just serve crostini, and you could just go in there and get a crostino and a glass of wine, kind of like the different enoteque in town. And at some point, Lenny Kravitz went there, and there were pictures of Lenny Kravitz hanging out. But even back then, it wasn't a big deal. Like you went, the locals went, and then something happened. Like they took off on TripAdvisor, and the rest is history. I'm very happy for the guy. I mean, he's got to be a millionaire by now, which is exciting because Italians don't always get to that level of business success because of all the taxes and the red tape, So when I see someone succeed, I'm very happy for them. But yeah, that's going on. So he's opened several locations. And then I mentioned Starbucks and Five Guys. So what I wanted to mention are some things that have been around for a while and they have been repurposed. They had closed for one reason or another.
Okay.
And they've been repurposed beautifully. So one thing that I'm very excited about, I want to say it was only last year. Yeah, it reopened in 2024. It's Le Giube Rosse, which is this historic literary cafe in Piazza della Repubblica. And they closed in 2019. So right before, it wasn't even due to the pandemic. They closed and we all thought, oh man, someone's going to come in and do something totally new. We were all pretty bummed out about it. Instead, someone has invested in it and reopened, and it's just like a really important. I can't talk about this place without using the word literati, which I love that word. It was a hangout for poets and artists and futurists, and I mean, I remember when I first discovered it in maybe 2004 or 5 when I was first living here. There was like a little table with people's poetry. And I just was, it was one of those places as soon as you walked in, you could tell it was very special. And it's called Le Giube Rosse which means the red jackets, because that's what the waiters would wear. And it goes all the way back to 1896. It was actually opened by 2 Germans, the Reining, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, Reininghaus brothers. If I'm not mistaken, it was actually a brewery when they first opened. Okay. And then it morphed into this literary cafe by, I want to say it was around 1910 that they changed the name to the Giube Rosse. And that was because everybody the waiters wore those red jackets. So that's kind of a new name it got. So it was closed from 2019 until last year. So about 5 years. I'm not sure who came in and invested, but fortunately someone did, and they left it in its, I would say 99% of its original splendor. And it's just nice to see the doors open again. I haven't gotten to eat there or drink there yet since they reopened. But I'm just happy to see that is still there, because a lot of these beautiful historic locations are being, they closed down, and then something, like I don't want to say a Gap, but like maybe another Benetton will open or something that, right. We've got plenty of. And then another one that's absolutely phenomenal, the Cinema Odeon. This is like this, just one of those movie theaters that you used to go in and you could watch a movie in an original language. So I could go and see whatever was coming out in the States and see it in English instead of seeing it dubbed in Italian.
Right.
And, it was big among a lot of the expats, but also a lot of the locals. They like to see Al Pacino with his real voice, even though the dubbing in Italy is phenomenal. They're really good at it. That goes all the way back to neorealism. They were like the first to master that. But anyway, That's a whole other podcast. So, so the cinema, it's inside of the Palazzo dello Strozzino, which is part of the Strozzi family property, right in the center of town, just kind of back behind Piazza della Repubblica, going towards Via Tornabuoni. And that building was built in 1457, but in the 19th century, it started to change ownership a lot. And in 1919, that's when they decided to turn it into a theater and a cinema. And then it kind of stuck. By 1922, it was inaugurated. The building was completed. So I wrote these dates down because it's a lot of dates and I'm bad with dates. But just to give you an idea of how cool this place is. So you're in, one of those old-timey theaters where you're on the floor. You've got the old velvet seats, but then it has the box seats around it too. I mean, it's just a beautiful space. And then, I can't even describe the decor, like Art Deco, Art Nouveau, just absolutely beautiful. So it was generally used for, first for theater and then for cinema. And as a matter of fact, the first screening of a sound film that was ever to take place in Florence took place in there in 1934.
Okay.
Then after World War II, it became mostly a cinema and it wasn't used that often for theater. But lots of cool things would happen. So they would host, special events occasionally, like Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. No big deal. In 1952.
Wow.
So, yeah. I know. It gives me shivers to think about it because I've been in there and I've watched movies in there. But to imagine them in there would be. I can imagine the acoustics must have been perfect too with all that velvet and. So in 2023, they converted it because it just wasn't lucrative enough to stay open as a cinema, unfortunately, because we're all streaming or whatever the reasoning was. So they kept the style, the Art Nouveau, and they reopened it in conjunction with Giuntini Press. Giuntini Press is kind of like Harper or Penguin Press, like for Italy, it's a big deal. And so obviously they have the money to help do this, right? So now it's a bookshop and cinema.
Oh, cool.
They left the majority of the original decor. They still have the movie screen up, but they've turned it into a bookshop. But there's still lots of the original seating. And then there's a little cafe. So it's a great place to go if I talk about this every time we talk about Italian food, the witching hour, when you're tired and you're starving. Give me your tired, give me your starving, give me your, what is that speech, right? You get out of the Uffizi at 3 p.m. and you're like, oh man, I would kill for a plate of pasta. And Italy is like, nope, you snooze, you lose.
Right.
We don't do pasta in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
Kitchen closed. So this is a great place if you just want to rest your feet, use the bathroom, get a snack. Especially if it's raining outside, which happens a lot if you come to visit in the winter or on one of those off days, in the spring. So there's so many reasons to go. You're seeing, imagine you're going to walk in and imagine Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. It's just, and it's free to go in and nobody seems bothered if you're just hanging out, which is, another thing we don't have a lot of in Italy.
Fantastic.
Usually you have to beg for a table and a bathroom, right?
Right.
Just because of limited space. So yeah, they've got the bookshop space. They've got the movie screens still up, and they do film screenings in the evenings. But there's also movies playing all day long. Usually it'll be like Disney movies and stuff, but like old school. I think the last time I walked through there, it was the old school Snow White playing on the screen. So it's anytime you go there, and then they'll also use anytime you go there, it's special. And then they'll also use it for presentations and meetings. So we have some film festivals in Florence, and so they'll use it for that. It's a fabulous space. As you can tell, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
So that new-ish, right? 2023 for me, that's new because
that's new.
I'm getting old, and 2 years flies by like that. And then also Le Giube Rosse just last year. Now I do have one that's coming up. This is my last one on the Florence new stuff.
Coming soon.
coming soon, in projected for December of 2025. So probably May of 2026. A new museum with contemporary and modern art. And it's the Casamonti collection. So this guy his name's Roberto Casamonti, and he has a phenomenal collection that's already on display in a smaller venue off of Via de Tornabuoni. So you can already go and see some of his collection, but the venue that it's in now is so small that they have to alternate. And there'll only be like maybe 20%, 25% of what he has on display at any given time. And I'm talking about Keith Haring, Basquiat, De Chirico, Warhol, Cragg, and then some Italian artists that I love that I had the good fortune of studying when I was at the University of Pisa, like Fontana and Burri and Shaloya and Afro. He's got all of these artists and more. I mean, when I looked on the website, I couldn't believe how much stuff, because I've never seen all of it at the same time there. So that's going to be moving into Palazzo San Giorgio, which is in the Oltrarno on the other side of the river, on the other side of the Arno, in Lungarno Serristori. And so it's going to be convenient to the city center, but it's also going to be in that area that's kind of nice to stroll over to get away from the crowds, to get away from the more popular monuments like the Uffizi and the Accademia. It's a fantastic location. So I'm really excited about that.
Katie Parla is a New York Times bestselling author, podcaster, and tour guide. She tells me about the culinary tradition of the islands in the Bay of Naples.
Capri is a place that, as I mentioned before, was developed for British, American, and German nobility, essentially ballers from those places with a touristic idea in mind. And it's undeniably beautiful, but does it have the depth of culture? Does it have the agricultural tradition that you find in Ischia or Procida? It can't. It wasn't developed for that purpose. And the Amalfi Coast is very remote. It's only now that people can go there more easily, but it's not even that easy to get to in the grand scheme of things. It requires some effort. So what I really love to do is skip Capri altogether. You know what? Because I can get the things I love from Capri, caprese salad and the flourless chocolate cake, torta caprese.
You can go to freaking Applebee's and get a caprese salad if you want.
Well, the one I'm thinking about has good mozzarella.
Okay.
You can get on the neighboring islands, Ischia and Procida. And from Rome, it's an hour train ride to Naples. And then it's a fast hydrofoil ride to Procida or Ischia, which are both spectacular and super cool and have way more Italian visitors than Capri. So you get, this is a loaded word, of course, but you get more of an authentic experience. And Ischia is a place where like real live locals actually live and do business and have their homes and their land. And so it's a place that feels like it's alive. And Capri is alive from Easter until like October 31st. Then it dies. Mm-hmm. It's actually really cool out of season, but it's
I was just thinking, man, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there for Christmas. So what is the culinary tradition of these two islands, Ischia and Procida?
Well, they're very much influenced by Naples because Naples is a massively populated city, and for the better part of its modern history, it was a very wealthy, prestigious place. The cuisines of Procida and Ischia, therefore, have a lot of influence from that mainland city, but Ischia also has its signature dishes, the most famous of which is probably coniglio all'ischitana, which is a braised rabbit dish that's reproduced enthusiastically in trattorie all across the island. You often have to order it in advance, like reserve it in advance before turning up. And that's an Ischia classic. I'm obsessed with this dish, and it really speaks to like the land-based nature of island cuisine in a very present way.
I want to talk a little bit about an island that's not too far from you off the coast of Lazio. When we think of Rome, which is in Lazio, we don't think of islands, but you go to the coast and you can go to this island called Ponza, which I've never been to. First of all, is Ponza easy to get to from Rome? Is this something we could do in a day trip, say?
It's a little tight in a day trip. So there is a port, so 1 hour train ride away called Anzio. If you can get to Anzio and then you can walk, 10 minutes to the port and get on a boat, you can go to Ponza and be back within the day, but you don't really get to experience the island. I always recommend 2 or 3 nights on the island. Anzio, however, during the pandemic, had its port kind of neglected. They didn't dredge it, so it was difficult to move boats out. So at least when I was trying to go there over the summer to shoot the book, I couldn't go through that route. So it's a little bit longer, but you can go down to Formia, Gaeta area, and then take the boat from there. But it's a little too much for just a day trip. Ponza doesn't have many beaches, and so the best way to explore it is by renting a little dinghy, which is very, very simple to do. There are tons of places in the port that will rent you one, whether you have any boating experience or not. And then you can go drop anchor in these spectacular volcanic coves with huge cliffs that reach down to this pristine water. It's absolutely spectacular. And one of my favorite restaurants on the planet, La Marina, is there in a village called Le Forna. The easiest way to get there is by boat, though.
Let's talk about the famous, that you talk about in your book, the famous grass pea soup in Ponza, because you painted a very nice picture of this. So tell me a little bit about the grass pea soup. What's involved here? I don't even think I know what grass pea soup means specifically.
So grass peas, cicerchie in Italian, look like chickpeas, but I think they're more like genetically related to fava beans.
Okay.
And they, again, speak to the land-based nature of island cuisine. They would be harvested and then dried and could be reconstituted in soup, providing a lot of protein, tons of flavor, and also a vegan option and gluten-free. So you've got this like legume-based stew. You just kind of like hammer the cicerchie until they fall apart after building a sofrito with onions and celery and carrots. Let it rock at low heat, simmer it until everything just sort of like melts. And it's so, so simple and so delicious. If there are any listeners who love soup, this book is for you. There's a whole chapter dedicated to it. And often the recipes are that simple. It's like build a sofrito, add some liquid and the legumes, whether it's lentils or grass peas, and then just like hammer it until you can't tell what it is. And those really deep flavors that come out when you cook legumes like this are something I so heavily identify with the islands. And I remember the first time I had cicerchie soup was probably, well, at least the first time I had it in Ponza was over 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And I hiked up to this like really remote little trattoria that was also an agricultural museum. And I looked at the menu and I was like, where is all the fish? Like, what's going on here? At that time, I hadn't really studied island food as intensely. And they're like, well, we got the soup and we got the eel. So the eel's the seafood.
Take your pick, lady.
So it was a great crash course in the way that people on the island have historically eaten.
Monica Cesarato is an author, podcaster, and foodie tour guide in Venice. She does cocktail tours in Venice and food tours, and she tells me about planning the perfect food tour of Venice and the small plates called cicchetti. I noticed something in your book, in the vegetable section. The cicchetti recipes, they're organized alphabetically. But I noticed something else, and this may just be a coincidence. In fact, I'm sure it's a coincidence. They're also almost, not quite, almost arranged according to season, because there's at the beginning of the recipes, there's a couple with artichokes and fennel. Those come out in the spring. Then there's a few recipes with peppers and tomatoes. They come out in the summer. And then finally, at the end of the chapter, there's butternut squash, and that's a fall recipe. And I thought,
actually, it was alphabetical, but you actually noticed it now. You're right. See, see, this book was meant to be, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Because
let's say,
seasonal dining is so important in all of Italy, but in Venice in particular, right?
Exactly, but not only that. I just wanted to make sure that people understood by, if you notice, well, first of all, I made sure that the cicchetti were divided by type, so fish, meat, and vegetables, because I thought it would be nice also for people that are vegetarian to have a list of cicchetti that they can do. But also, my intention was for people to understand that it's not just fish that is important in Venice, but vegetables. The Veneto region is one of the regions in Italy with the highest production of vegetables and fruits. Okay, I'm not so sure how much production, but we are one of the biggest regions in Italy, if not the biggest, but definitely one of the biggest. And I just wanted to make sure people could see the array of vegetables that we have. So it's not just the artichokes and it's not just tomatoes. You have the onions, you got the fennels, you've got the zucchini flower, you have zucchini, you have a butternut squash, we have a cabbage. And this comes from our tradition of cooking, because people think that, there is a misconception about Venetian cuisine that is very bland and is very basic. No, first of all, it's not bland. It is a cuisine that works on fresh. Like you were saying before, the ingredients got to be fresh. So you don't need thousands of sauces, thousands of ingredients, thousands of spices to cover the flavor, because it's fresh and it tastes good. But it's also a cuisine that was made of a lot of fruits and vegetables. And we kind of lost this in the history, because from the 60s onwards, everybody comes and only eats fish, because that's what the people the tourists from the north, like the German, the Austrians, and so on, were asking where they were coming to the city, because of course they didn't have access to fish. So they wanted to have fish. And the majority of restaurants start to follow the trend. So instead of proposing what really was Venetian, they proposed to the client what the client was asking. And we shifted to a lot of fish and less vegetables. But now I got to say things are changing, thankfully. So we are rediscovering that part of our cuisine. And I'm very happy about that.
That's awesome. In your book, it's. I don't want people to think it's just recipes, because you also you also lay out there's history, but you also lay out all of these itineraries where you give people walking tours, basically, and you say all of these great cicchetti spots to stop at, the bars. So, I don't want to go through all these itineraries. People should get the book, but I wanted to ask you, Monica, if we were to go out, describe to me what a typical evening would be like, sampling wine and cicchetti around the city. Like, how would you organize it yourself? Not the places, but the philosophy, the idea.
Okay, right, good. I'm glad you asked. You didn't ask me about places, because it's not that I don't want to tell people about the places. Just I don't want to put one in front of another, because there's about 30 of them and I like them all. Of course, I have my favorites like everybody, but it wouldn't be fair. Okay, but this is how I think a thing should be done. Well, first of all, I wouldn't jump from one district to another. I will stick to a district where you don't have to walk too much in between. In fact, the itineraries in the books are divided by districts. So according to which sestiere, the sestiere is the districts in Venice. So according if you are in Canareggio, in Castello, in Dorsoduro, there are a list of places where you can go to, so it's easier. I will start adding to those places about 5:30. That is a bit earlier than your typical Venetian will do, because that way you get to sit down. Because otherwise, if you go at the time that a typical Venetian goes, that's about 6:37, then you will find the place is packed. So it's good to go a bit earlier. So that's my suggestion. So go about 5:30. You start with, I know everybody comes to Venice to have a spritz, but I will say no. Go for wine. Okay. Go for wine or my drink that I've been trying to push for years now, that is called a cinico, and it's a version of a spritz, but much better. It is prosecco, lime, mint, and cinnamon liqueur. So trust me, very good. I define it as summer with a hint of Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And there's only one place in Venice that does it. But if people want to know which one, they're gonna have to write to me, because I'm not divulging that online. Okay, or is in the book. You will find it definitely in the book. No, I will start definitely by going and have a glass of wine, like an ombra, a small glass of wine, maybe two if you are the kind that can take two, with maybe 2 free cicchetti, no more than that. Then take a little stroll, move to another place and try different cicchetti and different, wine. And do this, and you can probably do about 3 of these, taking it very easy. I wouldn't do a pub crawl, so I wouldn't squash all of this in an hour. I will honestly do it over a 2-3 hours time scale, okay, to really enjoy, to really doing it the way the Venetians do it. But it's not just about walking in and drinking, it's about walking, meeting people, socializing, do a bit of people watching, do a little bit of gossiping as well. And then once you're done, you move to the next one. You meet some different people along the way and so on. That's what I'm saying is andar per Bacari, I couldn't translate in going to the bars. It's not the same. It is literally a stroll with food and wine. It's not even a walk. It's a stroll with food and wine. That's what it is.
I love this lifestyle. This is it's just exquisite.
Don't we? Trust me, don't we?
Pete Manzo is a tour guide who takes visitors on week-long trips to Tuscany and Puglia in Italy. He tells me about truffle hunting in Tuscany.
If you go to my website, tripstosavor.com, on the front page, there's a picture of our truffle experience, the family that runs our truffle experience. And I just absolutely love this family. You'll see the older man on the right is Luigi. He's the dad and he's the actual hunter. You have Luca on the left. He's one of 2 brothers. He's the winemaker. Brother, which is not pictured, Simone, actually is a chef. And then you have the stars of the show, the dogs. You've got those dogs, aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
They're just beautiful. They call it, the breed is called Lagotto Romagnola. It's a Labradoodle.
The famous truffle hound breed.
Yes. And the older one up front with Luigi is called Ricciolo. He's about 3.5 years old last year. And then behind him is his son, Rospo. And Rospo, so the names are, Rospo is 5 months old. And so Ricciolo, the dad, Ricciolo means curly because of his hair. And Rospo, the word, means toad because he's so little. It's cute. It's just adorable. But these dogs, we go out with them. Luigi teaches us all about how they're trained, which is just fascinating. We get to watch them detect where these truffles are and dig them out. Luigi doesn't speak any English, so Luca, his son, does a lot of the translating, and then I also translate also, because sometimes, my guests will be asking questions. Luca's got information that he's trying to decipher from what his dad said. And then there's censorship. I have to censor some of the things that are said, Like last time I was there, Luigi, people were talking about how the dog was so well behaved. And Luigi, like a stereotypical Italian male, says, "Yeah, he listens better than my wife does."
Oh, geez.
So yeah, I did not translate that because it was actually a group of women that were on the tour, all women on my tour. So, not only am I a food tour guide, but I also do a really good job at censoring things when they need be.
You may have saved his life, is what may have happened there.
Exactly. Exactly. You'd be surprised a lot of people don't know what a truffle is. Or I would say if they know what a truffle is, their assumption is that it's a mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, I don't know if you went through this on another show or not, but the truffles are actually edible spores, and they grow underground. It's underground fungus. It's part of the tuberaceae family, and it's technically not the same species because mushrooms grow above ground while the truffles grow beneath the surface, and it's usually around the tree roots, and it's usually in damp areas. So it's really fascinating to see these dogs go and find these truffles that are beneath the ground. And I'm not talking about just lightly beneath the surface. These can be pretty deep. Sometimes the dog is will be standing there, and we'll see him dig and dig and dig, and he's really like excited, and we're all kind of looking at each other like, where is it? Because he still hasn't gotten to it yet, but lo and behold, they always find it, you know?
The nose doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Pete Manzo from Trips to Savor. You can reach him at tripstosavor.com. That's trips2savor.com. And you can book a tour with Tony Mazzaglia at tasteflorence.com. Katie Parla's books and tours are at katieparla.com. And Monica's podcast tours and books are at monicacesarato.com. I've also got links in the show notes. And that's it for this week. Next week, it's Scots dressed as Vikings, the craziest vegetarian festival ever, and a place where unnecessary violence is frowned upon. We explore some of the world's most exciting and unusual festivals. Don't miss that. Until then, there's lots of foodie travel at destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a new video. This one's from Belfast, Northern Ireland. I visit a 400-year-old pub, the Peace Wall, and a Victorian market whose mascot is a goose. You can watch that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or by going to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. I also posted a new story. This one is about a chocolate festival here in Portugal. And yes, there's lots of delicious pictures. Read that at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. And you can also check out all my foodie travel guide ebooks at Buy Me a Coffee. There's over 24, including the massive Portugal foodie travel guide and my newest foodie travel guide to Malta. Browse the collection at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.